Okay, you start.
Hi, everybody. Charlie and Linda Bloom are here with you today.
We're back
for our Facebook Live Bloom Talk. And we know that we've got a really juicy topic for you today because when we posted this as a blog, it's called The Greatest Gift You Can Give Your Partner. It got over 260,000 hits on the Psychology Today blog site. So we know that people are fascinated by this and they really, really, really want to know what is the greatest gift that you give your partner. And so I want you to take a moment to think of what you believe that it is.
That was 2 moments.
All right. You got an idea in your mind? Because when we ask our friends...
You're going to be tested on this.
When we ask our students in class and when we ask our counseling clients, I'm going to give you a sampling of the things that they guess. And they're all fabulous guesses. Usually people say love. That's the greatest gift that you give your partner. And of course, love is essential and it's important and it's fabulous and it's powerful in any form that it comes in. Words of affirmation, acts of service, touch is beautiful, gifts are lovely, and how you spend your quality time. It's all good. But people often say full presence, to really show up in your relationship. Extremely important. Commitment's extremely important. Courage to bring up the tough subjects. We often have people say, it must be handling your anger well so that you're not grumpy and grouchy and sour and that you can handle your anger. And of course, that is essential. A lot of people guess that it's safety and security, and that's important. Some people guess great sex. It's a big boon to a wonderful relationship. But as we go down the list, as important as all of those are, very few people ever guess what Charlie and I consider to be the greatest gift that you give your partner. All right, drum roll, building up to the crescendo, your own happiness. Because if you take responsibility for knowing what your needs are and meeting those needs, and you rise up to a higher level of commitment and responsibility of your own happiness, then you will bring your happy self to your partner. If they're doing the same thing, that's an incredible gift that they bring to you.
Yeah, well, we call this Enlightened Self-Interest. And we've used that phrase before on these talks, I think. And what that means is that what motivates us to do something is both for the benefit of others or another, that we really want to serve and support them and provide for their needs that contribute to their well-being. But in the process of that, we ourselves benefit from it. Mm-hmm. So it's the gift that keeps on giving to both of us. And, you know, when two people are operating at that level, really with a commitment to be both responsible for fulfilling their own needs for well-being, but also to be committed to supporting their partner. When both people are doing that, then things are really cooking. Then you have a positive cycle rather than a negative downward spiral that a lot of us are very familiar with, about how we can get into those closed loops and just kind of spiral down when we're not really committed to both our own well-being and theirs, that we're, you know, more in survival, let's say. So it makes sense. I mean, when you think about it, if I'm really feeling fulfilled in my own life, then I'm not going to be as likely to keep holding Linda responsible or hoping that she's going to fill whatever is incomplete in me, or whatever feels like it's missing, or whatever's between me and feeling happier. And she's going to feel the weight of that expectation or need that I have that's unfulfilled. Because when you're in relationship with somebody, you cannot help but be affected by their moods. So no matter how much you might believe, well, we're all responsible for our own happiness. If you have a partner with whom you have a fulfilling, meaningful connection, and they're not doing okay for some reason, or they're struggling with something, or they're not feeling the way they would like to be, it's impossible for you not to care. It's impossible for you to not be affected by that. So to the degree that we can really accept ownership of our own responsibility for making ourselves feel whole and complete and enhance our level of well-being, that's a tremendous gift to them, because then that weight is lifted off of their shoulders, and they're not preoccupied with, I wonder how she's doing. Is there something that I did that might have, caused this? Is there anything I can do to, make her feel better? Some of those feelings are going to come up anyway, but when we're not feeling responsible for the other person, it's a very different situation than when we're merely feeling concerned and empathic and compassionate.
So when we're making a contract with our partner, the beginning of the relationship, if you've been together for some years, no matter what part of the relationship you're in, you can create a contract that I want to support you, my beloved, to be as happy as you possibly can be. And I will be a gracious receiver, and I will accept your support and encouragement to be as happy as I can be, because that's going to serve not only ourselves, but it's going to enhance the well-being of the other person. And some people, and the two of us here years ago, had the same belief that to be a loving partner, you had to sacrifice. Do you know? And this gets people in a lot of trouble if they sacrifice too much, because it breeds resentment. It's snipping off little parts of their own happiness and well-being. So, of course, if you're not generous of spirit and you don't do some giving and some sacrificing, you're screwed. But if you do too much and you sacrifice too much of your own well-being, you're screwed. There's a sweet spot there. There's a balance point where you're committed to your own happiness as well as your partner's happiness. And if you can keep that balance, that's when you can hit the higher ranges of well-being, when you're both feeling really happy and supported by the other person.
So I noticed that Linda's using the words happiness and well-being kind of interchangeably. And we do see them as synonymous, although there are some technical differences, but they're pretty close. When we feel happy, we do have a sense of well-being. We do generally feel like we are not only okay, but we're thriving. We're doing well. We're pleased with our experience. We're satisfied. And I want to distinguish that from pleasure. Not that there's anything wrong with pleasure, but it is distinct from well-being. Well-being is not a function as much of the circumstances in your life. It's not about, let me put it this way. That pleasure really has to do with having some sensory gratification. That something feels good, it tastes good, it smells good. I have a positive, pleasurable, gratifying experience that usually shows up somewhere in my body or in my mind. I have pleasurable thoughts, somebody says something nice to me, that feels good. Well-being and happiness, in the sense that we're describing it, has more to do with an overall sense of fulfillment. That I feel full, I feel complete. The world is good. I'm okay. I'm pleased with with who I am and with what I'm experiencing right now. So when we can bring that quality of fulfillment and well-being to our partner, not only does that relieve them of any concern or worry that they may have about how are we doing, and consequently they have less preoccupation with our state of mind or our state of being, but we're really giving them a gift because we're bringing that into their experience. Mm-hmm. So that's one of the things that we really want to stress in this talk today, is that it's not, despite what a lot of us have learned maybe growing up, that it's not selfish to think in terms of what is it that I can do that will bring more fulfillment and happiness into my life, because that is one of the ways that I want to give love to my partner. It's also something that, it's a win-win. It really enhances my life and my partner's life.
Mm-hmm. I want to piggyback on what Charlie's saying about the distinction. Happiness, a lot of times people think about pleasure, about really feeling good. And so I want to make the distinction about well-being is a part of happiness, but instead of the high, which can be fleeting, it's a deep and it's long-lasting. So we're really going for the gold here about having the deepest levels of satisfaction and well-being over time. And not 100% of the time, but for the majority of the time. Because even the happiest people get the blues sometimes. There has to be room for that. And so when you commit to your own happiness and taking responsibility for that, one of the ways to really get directly to the higher range of happiness is to know what we need to thrive. It's a little bit different for everybody. To tune into what it is that we need, to tell the truth about that, to reframe what we might have seen as selfishness before as compassionate self-care, responsible self-care, and to begin by telling ourselves the truth. To say, this is how much time I would like to spend together, quality time. This is how much time I need to thrive. I need to be alone. I need to have quality time with myself without anybody else's expectations of me, anybody needing anything from me. I need my solitude. This is what I need to thrive. I need to be social. I need to be with friends. This is what I need to thrive. I need to be with family. Or this is what I need to thrive. I want to be in nature. Maybe nature alone. Maybe I want to be in nature with you. This is what I need to thrive. I need to listen to music or creative expression. I want to paint. I want to make jewelry. I want to write songs. Whatever it is, if we tell ourselves the truth, this is what I need, and assess and see if we are really taking responsibility for bringing those things into our life that do help us to feel that sense of well-being, that we're thriving and that we're happy. And then on top of that, we need to have some bravery and courage to risk negotiating for our needs with our partner, because what they need to thrive and be deeply fulfilled may be different from ours. So we have to negotiate with them, because we're going for the gold here. We want both of us to be as happy as we possibly can.
I'm happy that there's a break there. Now I can say something. You were on a roll.
Yeah.
So I know, for example, that when Linda gets on a roll, that makes her happy to be able to express that, particularly if there's an audience besides me.
My passion's coming out.
Yeah. So that's a good example of how I had what we refer to as competing commitment. Yeah, I want you to go for it, and I love what you're saying, and I know that you're on a roll, and at the same time I'm thinking, wow, this is really kind of reminding me of things that I want to say here too, and so my attention is split between wanting to support her to do what she's doing, and at the same time wanting to be aware of what it is that I want to say, which I've already forgotten, which is okay, because it'll come back at some point. But actually, I just remembered it again. But I couldn't resist that example. So I'm glad that you said those things. And
what do you want to say?
There's a lot of good stuff there. Well, it sounds great what you're saying, and it sounds like it's easy. Well, oh man, all I got to do to really give my partner the greatest gift I can give her is I just need to figure out what's going to make me happy, and then give that to myself. Wow, that's great. I mean,
and negotiate with me.
Oh,
because
that I forgot about that part.
That's an important part. So we can both really feel fulfilled.
So does negotiation mean that one of us gets their way and one of us doesn't?
No, we're going to just keep in dialogue until we find out how you can get most of what you really need to thrive, and I can too.
But I want all of it.
Oh yeah, well that's okay for you to want what you want. I want what I want too.
Yeah.
But we maybe are not going to have everything that we want on any given day or even any given week, but over time we want it to be egalitarian and fair and just.
So the point here is that this is easier said than done.
Very important point you're making.
It sounds like it should be really easy, but for reasons that probably a lot of you are beginning to see, it's not so easy. Mm-mm. This tendency that so many of us have to believe that it's wrong, it's selfish, it's unloving for me to put myself first and be thinking in terms of, well, what's going to make me happy? Well, don't underestimate just how deeply embedded that belief is. And when you look at it closely, you can see that is a setup. I mean, if I live my life according to that belief, I'm going to keep being in situations where I'm going to be choosing continually to give up things or to not to deny myself things that will make me happy, because I've got this belief that, oh, no, can't go there, because if I do, I'm getting something, but it's at somebody else's expense. And that's not going to be good. That's selfish, and that's going to mean that that's going to cause problems. So we've got to be willing to challenge some of these deeply embedded beliefs that we've taken on from our families or parents or church or schools or wherever, that there's something that is not loving or responsible about putting yourself first. And we're not saying that you just focus primarily on what you want and forget about the other person. One of the reasons that relationships are so challenging, I think this is the biggest reason that they're so challenging, is because we are called upon to do two seemingly contradictory things simultaneously. We're called upon to be responsible for taking care of ourselves and identifying and fulfilling our own needs, but we're also called upon to dedicate ourselves to enhancing the well-being of the other person and to strengthening the relationship. So on the one hand, our tendency is to focus inward and to address some of the questions that Linda was raising about, well, what is it that really gives me fulfillment? But at the same time, it's not an either or, it's a both and. How is it that what is it that I can best contribute to my partner, to this relationship that's going to enhance it at this moment?
Mm-hmm. I'm very fond of the whole notion and the term creative synthesis. And creative synthesis means that you stay in dialogue and you think outside the box and you're creatively negotiating with each other until you find something that both of you can get behind. And there's this beautiful story about this person who is a negotiator who was called in as a consultant. And I think it was the border of Bolivia and Ecuador that was in dispute, because usually there's a river that runs through and they can put the border there, but the river would sometimes dry up in the dry seasons and they couldn't see exactly where it was. It was in a mountainous region. And so the consultant was a very creative thinker, and he's thinking outside the box. And they were getting ready to go over to war over this. I mean, bloodshed with people dying over not having a proper boundary and border in this region between the two South American or Central American countries. And he said, what if you made this a nature preserve and you charged the climbers and the people who visited there, and the money would be distributed to both countries and they could get behind it? And I thought, what a beautiful idea. Do you know, to find something that worked for both people, and both of the countries were happy and they avoided a war. And if they can do it on a national level, we ought to be able to just, two people with some goodwill and some kindness and some creativity, find something where you can be happy and thrive, and I can too. Let's put our creative imaginations and our commitments together to find out how we together can co-create a life that can really lift us both up into the higher realms of well-being.
Now, I can already hear what some of you are thinking. That well, that's a cute little story, and that's great. And you know, if the world were like that, we would have a different world than the one that we're living in now. But the world isn't like that. And how do I know that if I am the first one to, get committed to making this work for both of us, and the other person is only committed to getting it to work for them, then I'm going to get taken advantage of. And maybe one or two of you out there who have had the experience of feeling like you were taken advantage of in previous relationships or previous lifetimes or whatever. So, we've got some concerns about that, because it requires a level of, it sounds strange, but it does require a level of vulnerability to really dedicate yourself to being honest with yourself and with your partner about what it is that will really bring you greater fulfillment and happiness in your life right now, without laying a trip on them saying that, and it's your job to do it, or even thinking that. We may not say that, but we might think, well, I want to have this experience right now, and I'm going to need you to provide this for me. I'm always very hesitant to, or kind of a little suspicious when I hear people start sentences with the words, and I know a lot of you have, I need you to. I need you to. Generally, it's not quite true, but it is very compelling, because if somebody needs you to do something, it's really a lot harder to say no to them than if they just make a request or express a desire. So what I might need, or what I might really want, is an experience of intimacy right now. Not necessarily sexual, although it could be, but I want us to take some time together. And I need you to, join me on this. Well, if I'm going to truly be responsible for my own happiness, then that doesn't mean that I have to provide, all of those needs for myself, by myself. If I want to be connected with somebody, then it's my job to be present with them in a way that invites them, makes a compelling invitation for them to want to join me, rather than kind of projecting onto them the expectation that, okay, well, we're married and I want this, and let's have it. Mm-hmm. So to be responsible for my experience doesn't mean that I have to do it all alone by myself.
Right.
But it does mean that I have to engage in my life and with people in a way that will make it more attractive to them to want to join me in whatever it is that I'd like to experience with them.
Mm-hmm. I'm getting a kick out of addressing this particular topic in December, when everybody's running to the stores to buy stuff, because there's extraordinary expenditures going on of the monetary kind in the shops and the stores all over the country. And I think buying gifts is really nice. But the positive psychology research is very clear that what sticks with people is not the objects that they're given, it's the experiences that they have. And so when you think about the great gifts that you can give, not just your partner, your kids, your family members, your siblings, your parents, your best friends, these people in your life who are supports to you, it doesn't necessarily have to cost a lot of money. In fact, it doesn't have to cost a cent. That this is one of those extraordinary gifts that's the gift from the heart. I'm committed to my own happiness so that when I'm with you, I'm bringing a bright, uplifted, cheerful, happy camper to my connection with you. The single people in our network tell me a lot about when they post their profiles on the dating sites. One of the things that they say that they have to offer, and one of the things that they're looking for in someone to date, is they want somebody with a sense of humor. That always reminds me that they're looking for somebody that they can laugh with, that they can rejoice with, that they can enjoy with. And I always think they're looking for somebody who's happy, not some kind of a sourpuss, who's defeatist or jaded in life. And so I think people are craving not just their own happiness, to be with others, because we're inspired with people who are happy about their life and who are living with well-being.
Mm-hmm. So, see if you can take some of what you've heard today into your life and into your relationships, and see what the results are of that. Do a little experiment and see if you notice, when you really get more honest with yourself and with your partner, and that can feel kind of risky sometimes to reveal things that you really deeply desire and the kind of support that you would like in moving towards the fulfillment of that desire. See how that goes.
And if you're thinking of somebody in your life, or maybe some bodies who you think, oh, I wish they would see this. I wish they would see this, that they really need to commit to their own happiness and our relationships would be so much better. Send it to them on Facebook and let them know right away, and encourage people to come and join us every single Thursday for our Facebook Live on Pacific time. And we want to give you the topic for the next time we're going to be speaking next Thursday at 12:30 p.m. Pacific time. The topic is keeping love alive, because a lot of people think that it's great in the beginning and then it goes downhill after that. And I'm telling you, you can keep love alive over the decades. Charlie and I are almost 50 years together, and we know how to keep it alive. And we'll give you some hot tips about that when we talk to you next time.
So tune in then. Have a good week.